All right. So here's some news. Honestly, not as much news as we got with like D2R and stuff. There's definitely um, there's definitely like they're trying to keep it more locked down. I think um, to like the blog post and all of that stuff. Also, way too many people ask questions, and so I only got like two or three questions in, and they were taking a lot more time answering their questions. So we did not get a lot of our questions answered. But with that being said, I will go into the Diablo 4 information that we have. So currently, there are no announcements about leaderboards yet, or anything of that. But I would imagine there's going to be something that they'll get to with that stuff. Um, I don't see them having it completely cleared. I imagine there will be some stuff with that. Um, in terms of the world overall, they said this is very zoomed out in terms of the amount of sanctuary that we're seeing compared to Diablo 1, Diablo 2, and Diablo 3. So each expansion has shown more of the world, and this one is the most that we will see of all of them. So it's a very expansive world. So way more to experience as you see fit. You can kind of, run around and create your own adventure a little bit, it seems like. Um, yeah, I mean, they said this is the most world of all the games. The Shards of Hatred, which they alluded to earlier. So, Shards of Hatred are going to be used for unlocking certain cosmetic rewards that can only be unlocked through those shards. So it's going to be like a thing. So you collect shards of hatred, and then you go into a PvP zone, and you consume the shards, and it creates a like an instance where monsters will start attacking you, and you have to fend them off. And then there'll be like chests with loot rewards, something like that, or with rewards for something that maybe that's where you get the shards or whatever it is. But other players can come in while you're doing that and start attacking you as well and try and steal your loot. Um, so you're gonna like be fighting with other players in these zones. And then the people who are successful, I guess, and get that loot, there's PvP towns with PvP vendors that sell cosmetics that only are allowed for people who have done that stuff. So it's pretty interesting. It sounds like an interesting idea. I'm sure there's some balance and all the stuff they're gonna figure around it. Basically, you'll have to build PvP characters, it seems like, to go get that stuff. Like, if you just have your like fun dandy little character and go in there, I'm sure people will just destroy you and steal your loot. And so so they're really wanting to make that like those cool cosmetics very specific to like, hey, I have a good PvP character or something. So yeah, so that's something basically right there. And so, if you don't want PvP, you just don't get those cosmetics and you don't go in that zone. Like, pretty simple. So that's something right there. Open world style. There will be like many towns. There will be capital cities. And you're binding your TP to a location in the world. So you can bind your TP to a small town that you just passed. You can bind it to one of the capital cities, whatever it is. So that way, when you use a TP, you can go back to wherever you wanted, and you can keep rebinding that. There will also be waypoints in the world, so you can bind a TP to somewhere nearby, go there, and then use a waypoint to go somewhere else if you need whatever it is. So, it looks like they're trying to really allow you to move around the world. Many affixes can be useful for PvP, but none will be exclusive to PvP. So somebody was asking if there's anything exclusive like that, and they said no. I asked about tactical fighting with hit recovery, block recovery, all that stuff, and they said there's a couple types. So there's a flinch, which doesn't stop you from having any control of your character, casting anything like that. And then there's a stun type effect that will remove your control like you have in D2. But it won't exist the same way in that it's like a hit recovery if you take too much damage. They said they actually experimented with that. So like the monsters hit you and then you get stunned. You go into hit recovery, right? They experimented with that and they just didn't like it when they were playing it. So they decided to remove it. And it seems like specific monsters will be able to stun. I wasn't able to get a full answer on this, but it seems like specific monsters will be able to stun, but maybe not all of them will be able to. And there is no cooldown on blocking, so it looks like they're taking out the block recovery and stuff. So a little disappointed in that. I think, that makes the game a lot better when you have to actually consider, can I dive in next to these monsters, or do I need to actually keep my distance and kite them and stuff? But I think that might just be older games. I just don't think new games really do a lot of that stuff. PoE technically has hit recovery and things, but even there, you rarely see it's like people still go flying through all the monsters and stuff. So there's just I don't know, the style of game where you have to actually be really conscious of your positioning feels like it just isn't much of a thing anymore, which kind of sucks. Hardcore mode is making a return. Solo self-found is not going to be a thing specifically as of right now, but you can choose to play on your own if you want. So in towns you would see people, but then whenever you go into fighting zones, you can go in solo instances on those. Elements are important to the game, and the rogue has a shadow element, which is just like cold, fire, things like that. So I guess shadow is another element that will have its own kind of ailment, it seems. I'm curious on what all of that will be. Trade, they're still trying to determine how much to limit. They don't want players to not do challenging content, but they also don't want players to feel like they can't trade anything worth of value, and there's no point in trading. Personally, I still want them to just do completely open trading. And then, so what if I don't do the challenging content? That gear should be worth a lot then, and I'll have to trade a lot for it. And that's my challenge, is getting enough to trade for it. But, they might want to limit a couple of things. But, it seems like they're trying to still make sure there's enough value there. I think it'll be probably all right, but I would still prefer a completely free market. The rogue, specifically at all times, she's going to have range and melee weapons equipped. And the goal is to have her kind of seamlessly bounce between each of those. So, to dive in, use some daggers and slash, and then jump out and use your bows. So that's kind of the goal they're aiming at for the character. But you might be able to specialize more or something in one or the other. There is the content is definitely planned to be added to Diablo 4 in future, but there's no timeline exactly on that. So when it's released, they're planning to add more stories, more quests, more of things like that. The class quest for the rogue So basically, you can unlock your specializations by doing these class quests. That is the thing that is unique to the rogue, just like the enchant is unique to the sorceress and things like that. Imbues are a thing that is an active skill that temporarily enchants your weapon. You can only have one imbue up at a time, but a monster can have all of the ailments. So the imbue is like a skill you can put in. You can imbue your weapon with cold, hit a monster and freeze it, imbue your weapon with poison, hit a monster and poison it, and do that sort of stuff. So it seems like that's something that they're working around on. Yeah, kind of like cold enchant, fire enchant, or poisons on World of Warcraft or whatever it is. The economy, I got to ask about that. They said they're continuing to develop and balance. Gold is the currency that they want to use, but they want it to feel valuable, unlike, like in Diablo 2, or just kind of becomes a mess. So they said in the latest playtest, like, there was too much gold and it just kind of, it was pointless. And so they want to have a lot of ways to spend gold and keep it in check. They didn't give us any examples really on it. But that's something that they're continuing to try and work in balance. I also asked about crafting in there. They said there will be crafting. I did not get any further details. They want time investment to give benefit, but they recognize that Diablo 3 had problems with that for sure. One, grinding became more rewarding than skill play. The whole point was just grind, and it wasn't if you grind well or grind poorly. It was just as long as you're grinding, you're getting stronger. And so they want you to get the benefit from having some time investment, but they don't want to be like that, where like in D3, it's just more rewarding to just keep grinding. And then additionally, they recognize that having an uncapped system leads to and encourages unhealthy play styles, where you're just supposed to sit there and grind as long as possible to get as far as possible. And so they want to find a proper balance between those and the healthy options and whatnot. But they still want to have the time investment be a thing. So, from my side, I say, like, the time investment, I feel like the benefit should just be, well, whatever you find when you're doing it. You get more experience to your character to level up. You get the items that you find. You get the, whatever. So I'm not as big a fan of having time investment give any benefit, but that's what they said. World changes. Each player gets to accomplish everything they want. So if you haven't done a quest, like clearing a town, and you go to that town, you won't see it cleared. And the people in that town will be people who also haven't cleared that town. And then people who have cleared the town will be in the cleared town together. And then the only difference is if you join a party with a party leader who has cleared that town or something, then you would see it. Hardcore PvP, they talked about currently permadeath is not a thing, but they're looking for feedback, and if players want that, they will implement it and have hardcore PvP permadeath be a thing. And then they started discussing a thing called a scroll of escape that you can use at any time, and it will like randomly port you somewhere. So it could port you somewhere dangerous, somewhere safe. Whatever it is, it's kind of a last ditch like effort to just get out if there's like a boss fight or something that you feel like you're gonna die in. And you just no clue. Kind of like phasing, but anywhere. It's like the escape rope in Pokemon, but once again, it doesn't take you to town. It just takes you somewhere, and it could throw you into a dangerous area. And so it's not meant to be used as like a thing that you're like using all the time. This is like your hardcore character is about to die, and your like last ditch effort, you push the button, sort of thing. And then if you disconnect and are going to die, I think it'll use that scroll of escape as well to try and help prevent disconnect deaths. Something like that. I didn't get the full like understanding of it, but it seems like that's something they're trying to check out. End game activities and scaling. They said check out the subsequent blog post that will be coming out in Q2, Q3, Q4. They want there to be things around the world that are challenging and fun in the early game and in the end game. So looks like they're going to try and the scroll of escape is going to be rare. It's not like some random thing that you just get super easy and all that stuff. It's like a rare, like, last ditch effort crazy thing. And yeah, so they want you to still be moving around the world in the end game and having different ways to play and do stuff. I did not get to ask other questions, so there's so many questions I still have about max level, time to get there, magic find, personal shared loot, rune words, experience loss, what happens on death, infinite scaling for stats. I guess we kind of got that. Story, different kinds of PvP options, crit percent damage, affixes, There's still so much I wanted to ask, but like I said, there were a lot of people who were asking questions, and many of them kept asking questions about like the rogue and things. And, so there's still good stuff that we got out of it, but I definitely have much more that I want to ask. So I'm more satisfied coming out of the D2 remastered, as there was a lot of information from that one, because they were just like bam, bam. And less people ask questions in there, so I got to ask more things, I think, which was nice.